Good day to everybody, wherever you are. It's my pleasure to be here today. So far, I would like to highlight two things we have heard today so far. AI is what we want, will be what we make it to be, and also AI is not developed with children in mind. Those are, I think, the guiding principles to what we have done as we developed the guidance on AI for children and the new version of this guidance. So, as we have heard from many of the speakers before, AI and children are a combination which cannot be ignored. But we do need to move from principles and nice words and agreeing at high level in what it is to really practical activities, practical guidelines, and handles so that everybody can participate and everybody can ensure that indeed AI and children are a combination that is beneficial for children and for future generations. AI is, like we have heard also from other participants before, is about computer systems, digital systems which are designed to make predictions, recommendations and decisions, and in that way they influence real or virtual environments. What we cannot forget is that these systems are designed by us. These systems, AI is not really artificial. It's based on the data, on the work, on the efforts of many, many people, uses natural materials from our world, uses energy and other affects our world in many different ways. It is not artificial, but it is also not intelligence. It is able to generate and derive patterns from data, is able to make correlations and to make very good predictions and very good decisions based on these correlations, but it is in most cases not able to understand the meaning of what those predictions are, what that data is about, and how that really affects our world. AI is not magic. AI is not science fiction. AI is what we make it to be. At the same time, AI systems are not alone. They are part of a social technical ecosystem involving those to develop, those that use, those that govern, those that provide, and of course those that are affected by it. And as in that sense, we really need to look at AI from the perspective of those that are involved in it, and not so much trying to modify or to ensure, next to ensuring that the quality of the systems is the highest possible, we do need to address this social ecosystem around the applications, the software applications that we use, because is at the level of this ecosystem, at the level of these systems and institutions and people that are involved, that we really can make a difference. AI is an opportunity, but it is also a risk in terms of the child rights that are at the core of the work that UNICEF does. AI can be a risk for many of the child rights, but at the same time we can really use AI applications to improve and to make benefit for children across many different types of rights, children rights. We can use AI to improve the education of children. We can use AI to improve the access to education and to healthcare. We can use AI to support the right of children to leisure, to play, to entertain themselves. We can use AI to support the development of better and more inclusive and more diverse types of systems and around the world. But at the same time, time, we all know about the possible risks that come with AI, that instead of closing the digital gap and closing the access to the digital, to the digital to all of us, it might create even bigger gaps, even more problems, even less inclusion, even more biased systems. So we really need to work on that. And the guidance is exactly about closing these gaps, is exactly about ensuring that AI is used is seen as an opportunity, is used as a beneficial step towards child rights, rather than being a risk to the child rights and to children. At the core of the guidance is exactly how can we empower children in increasingly in a world increasingly dominated and mediated by AI systems. How can we uphold children's rights in this world? How can we empower children? So the focus of the guidance is on three pillars: protecting, ensuring that these systems do no harm to no children, nowhere, never. Also, providing, ensuring that all AI systems, all AI applications do some good for children. Again, all children, everywhere, at any time and always. And at the same time, we really want to do this, and we need to do this together with children. So we really have to ensure that development and use of AI systems is one of participation, one in which children are not just the object, but also a subject and a direct stakeholder and participant in the whole system, in the whole process. So we have developed several requirements that we hope that support organizations, governments, industries around the world to really uphold children's rights and see that children's rights are the foundation for all the work that we are doing, all the ways that AI can and should be included in AI applications should be inserted in society. These requirements are very diverse, and I don't want to spend much time here looking at all the requirements, and I encourage all of you to download the new version of the guidance and look at this, at all the requirements. What we have done is next to really aligned with our principles and our idea that it's not just about principles, but it's about providing also handles for action. We have developed several types of tools and documents that go alongside with the guidance report. We have looked at providing some short guidelines, some short support for teens as they are entering and becoming more aware of their role and their possibilities, their responsibility in the use of AI, but for parents and educators as well. We have developed several types of tools to operationalize and to support the design and the development of these systems and throughout the whole process of development and use. We have looked at how children, how adolescents look at AI and what are their hopes, their concerns and their expectations for the future. And we also have looked at how AI, the governance of data and children data in a manifesto on the governance of data. On this new version of the guidance report, we have worked together with organizations across the world, which have piloted the many requirements that we have we have suggested, and they really. I'm looking forward to in the next part of this session to speak with some of them in terms of what they learned, what were the challenges, what were the issues that really support the development of the many different types of systems that they have looked at, and how they really could get something and what have they gotten from the guidance, and how this guidance and how their experience can help others to develop and to really take up the guidance and use it in many different applications and in many different ways. So we will continue with that in the next part of this session. But I would like to finish just by thanking all the participants in the many sessions that we have had across the world in designing the first and the second version of the guidance document. Of course, all the children that have been participating and involved in the discussions, the children workshops that we have done around the world. Of course, also the advisory committee, which comes from many different countries, many different backgrounds, many different disciplines, and the reviewers, and of course, the pilot partners. And now we are moving into the second part of this session, in which we are going to talk with three of the people which have been involved in developing the pilots around the guidance. So I would like to welcome now to the stage Judith Okonkwo from Imìsí 3D in Nigeria, Randy Gomez from on the Research Corporation in Japan, and Malin Larsson from AI Sweden. Hello everybody, and very nice to see a real international and global panel today here. We are coming from many different parts of the world, but and we are joined here exactly by the work that you have done to pilot the AI guidance, UNICEF AI guidance for children in the different applications, the different situations, the different realities of your countries and your industries and your disciplines. So as we start, I would like to ask all of you to briefly introduce yourself and also introduce the pilot that you have done with the UNICEF's AI guidance. So please, Judith, would you like to start?
Thank you very much, Virginia. Good afternoon, everyone. What a pleasure it is to be here with you all today to talk about the work that we have done implementing UNICEF's policy guidance. My name is Judith Okonkwo. I run Imìsí 3D. It's a creation lab based out of Lagos, Nigeria, that is focused on supporting the growth of the ecosystem for the extended reality technologies across the continent. In that vein, we are always keen to look at sectors or areas in which we think these technologies can have immediate significant impact for our local communities. And over the years, it has involved, plays in areas like education, storytelling, and mental health care, which has been the focus of our pilot with the policy guidance. We partnered with a consultancy based in Lagos called AskTooks.com. They work with children who are neurodiverse. And the founder of AskTooks.com, a lady called Tooks Bakare, one of the challenges she often had was that it was very difficult to get the skills, the talent to scale the work that she was doing. So mental health care is, in places like Nigeria, certainly severely under-resourced. So she kept thinking, what can we do to, at least try and mitigate that in some way? And we put our heads together and we decided that, hey, what if we could get more people to increase their awareness of what autism is? And along the way, why don't we, include a few tips that they can use in practice when they engage with people who might be on the autistic spectrum? And so we conceived a game called Autism Vr. It's a virtual reality game that is voice-driven, so we're using natural language processing there. And the idea with this game is that for the player, for the audience, they, first of all, sort of like get some information about autism spectrum disorder, some tips on how you can interact with a child who might be autistic, and then they get to actually put it into practice in sequences in the game subsequently. For us, the policy guidance was extremely useful, and we decided to focus on 3 requirements from the guidance: supporting children's development and well-being, ensuring inclusion of and for children, and finally, focusing on fairness and non-discrimination for children. And this has very much been at the heart of the work that we're doing in trying to make sure more people know what autism is and know, sort of like separate from the stigma or the misconceptions that are fairly prevalent in society. And then that they have some tips that they can go ahead to implement if they do encounter a child who might be on the spectrum.
Wow, that really looks like a very challenging and amazing work that you are doing there. I look forward to know a little bit more about that in a minute. But let's continue with Randy Gomez from on the Research Center in Japan. Please, can you tell us a little bit about what was your pilot and what were the challenges that you found?
Thank you, Virginia. I'm Randy Gomez from Honda Research Institute, Japan. This pilot study is a joint collaboration with the European Commission Joint Research Council with our partner, Vicky Carisi. The Honda Research Institute envisions a society in which the relationship between autonomous cyber-physical systems, including robots, humans, and nature might be mutually beneficial. So we built the experimental robot Haru that interacts with children for cohabitation and mediation. The Joint Research Center, JRC, of the European Commission provides independent scientific evidence for the support of EU policymaking in the context of the design and development of social robots for children. Artificial agents such as robots will be prevalent at some point in time, and this would greatly affect children. This pilot study is to help us prepare when designing such applications. In this pilot study, we focus on two child-centric requirements that align with the UNICEF policy guidance on AI for children, namely prioritizing fairness and non-discrimination for children and providing transparency, explainability, and accountability. So in the first requirement, we want to understand what does fairness means in the eyes of children when it comes to interacting with a robotic agent. We conducted a participatory study with children in Uganda and in Japan. This would help us design child-centric robot behaviors, interactions, and applications that is perceived as fair by children. For the second requirement, the research team would like to understand what does a trustworthy robot companion means to a child. So in this regard, we conducted specific user testing to help explain both the perception and AI processes used by the robot that is understandable by children and explained through the robotic companion. The results were promising. We were able to have some understanding of the effects of cultural and economic status to children's perception with robots. We were able to understand the importance and extract the invaluable contributions from stakeholders and collaboration partners. And we developed and embed the UNICEF's policy guidance onto a module in our system, which we are continuously using. So this means that any AI processes, including perception, has to pass through this module with the hope of optimizing the robot's actions to be fair, explainable, and trustworthy to children. We also built partnership with schools and creative spaces and hospitals for children, not just for the pilot study, but to continue our activities in the longer term. Because of this pilot study, we received support to continue our work with a much more global scope and to be able to reach critical mass. The pilot study indeed had a transformative impact to our institution and our research. Thank you.
Great to know. Very challenging again and very broad type of work doing there at together with JRC from the European Commission. But now let's still see what Malin, what AI Sweden has been doing with the pilot. I think you are muted. I think we lost Malin. No. We might have lost.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we hear you. Yes. Please go on. No, I think there is some, we are having some issues.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, great. Thank you. And a pleasure to be here. And thank you for the invitation. My name is Malin Larsson, and I'm representing AI Sweden. That is the National Center for Applied AI, supported by the government and the private and public sector, and the project Free Cities. And the Free Cities have been big collaboration in between AI Sweden, Mobile Heights, Arike Innovation, Lund University, together with the 3 cities of Malmö, Lund, and Helsingborg. And we have actually been doing 2 tracks in this. So we made it a little bit bigger than we were supposed to do, because we already felt in the very beginning this is such an important pilot project, and there is so much for everyone to learn. So the first track is 3 case studies in 3 cities to really gather the real experience from the field with applying the AI policy for children on already ongoing projects. So the first project is called Laiban in Helsingborg, city of Helsingborg, and is a chatbot on a tablet located in a classroom in the preschool. And what it does is it is designed to answer common question that comes from the children every single day. What will I wear? What is it for lunch? Etc. etc. Fantastic product with a lot of different AI solutions. In the city of Malmö, we focused on urban planning, where we combined several departments' socioeconomic data for children up to 17 years. And this to help and see how can the urban planners do the urban planning in such with the children in the center. And in the city of Lund, here we call it the best of the child, where we were testing already existing policy in the city with the AI policy for children to put it on and improve and develop the existing policy. So with the learning and with the knowledge around this, we realized that this is so important for all our regions, municipalities, and all people who are working in the public sector. So we started a second track that we call the national track, and that was a pre-study to look into the components needed to build a national framework to strengthen and accelerate the knowledge and collaboration for the application of child-centered AI. And this we did together with the Swedish government, Swedish innovation agency, Vinnova. And we have more or less, with these 3 projects, we have more or less covered all the 9 requirements. And we are right now also taking all the knowledge and learning forward. And we have been, during this period of time, also had, in the pre-study, have close dialogue with H&M and somebody to learn also from the private sector on what is needed and what is needed in innovation environment for child-centered AI on a national level.
Great, very nice, very good to hear all the different applications. It's very good to see also the very different type of topics, from working with children in the autism spectrum in Nigeria to interactions between children and robots on the research, but also this more kind of policy work that AI Sweden has been doing with municipalities in Sweden and with the research organization in Sweden to understand how to include and to child-driven AI or AI for children at design and development level at municipalities. It's quite a broad type of topics, and very nice to see all the different things. So maybe we could now focus a little bit in what were the main challenges that you encountered, and also what were the opportunities that, using the AI guidance that developed by UNICEF, what were the opportunities that you got from this guidance? I don't know if someone wants to start. No, so
I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah, sure, please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I should probably give a little bit of context about the project that we carried out. The first thing to say is that we started it out as a community project, and what that means for us is that it was mostly staffed by volunteers. which is a really interesting approach to take, but that's really how we do the majority of our work, engaging with the community. And in that vein, then I'll just talk a little bit about our challenges, and I probably put them in a couple of buckets. The first around talent. And when I say talent, it was really looking for people with the know-how when it comes to sort of like NLP and the various options that we had for the technologies that we could use for the speech recognition in the virtual reality game. And I think it probably sort of like links to what Professor Malin was saying about curriculums and that knowledge being more prevalent, certainly across the continent, right? That people will have more skill and expertise in this. But that was definitely one issue for us. And when we were conceiving of the game, so the way it actually works is that you're in a scene where you meet a guide, and the guide is someone that provides information about autism to you, and you're supposed to verbally interact with that guide. But initially, it's very limited interaction, so they'll give you information and you'll let them know whether or not you understand it. And then subsequently, you then go into a scenario where you're in a typical Nigerian home, and there you're visiting a family, and the child in that family has autism spectrum disorder, ASD. So you're then supposed to implement some of what you've learned from the previous scene and hopefully get the child to interact with you in some way, shape, or form.
Wow.
And, the tips that are passed are just the really basic things like, speak slowly, use simple words, etc. So there's a lot around, obviously, being able to speak and have the interaction follow through.
Very nice.
Had challenges, with the technology, as well, where we probably know about speech recognition when it comes to different accents around the world. So I think that was certainly the case for us. We were using IBM Watson, and there's like a bit of back and forth in terms of what voices would be recognized and what voices wouldn't. And then even getting, like I say, back to that talent issue, the people who could help us navigate all of that and work with it were some of the issues. But I think, when we look at sort of like the positive side, it was that all of the rigor that the policy guidance introduces when we were tackling the requirements was something that we were then able to share more broadly with the community because we were engaging with them to build. And I particularly liked the way in which the policy guidance drove us to really intentionally work with children to develop the game. So we built a previous iteration where, we just went ahead engaging with experts who work with children, but not explicitly sort of like going out and saying, how can we best engage with and include the voices of children in developing this and ensuring that their representation is accurate from their point of view as opposed to from the point of view of people who might work with them. I think that was a real positive for us and a real eye-opener that we're taking forward in all that we do in design.
Very good. Well, I see the challenges you identify, I think, are recognizable probably by anyone else working in this area. The challenges around talent, challenges around technology, so I suppose something which is universal. But I also like to see how the guidance has supported you on looking further into the participation and including children. So maybe, I don't know if Randy and Malin, you recognize both the challenges as the opportunities, or if you had other challenges or other opportunities. Malin, please.
I would like to add a challenge. Yeah, I would like to add a challenge. And I think it very much is about mindset, leadership, and policymakers and organizational structure. That's what we realize. The data is very much stuck in organizational structures. You are not allowed to share it, as well as the mindset of technical side and social science and ethics side. And I think that is the biggest, the mindset and how that actually AI is not technology, it is a concept.
Yes.
And how can it actually improve ours? So I think very much the mindset and the leadership of how to create cross-functional team.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Let's also, because of the time, maybe Randy, do you recognize these challenges? Do you have other challenges, other opportunities?
I I can pretty much relate with what Malin mentioned. Because when we start piloting, we had to translate the principles into actionable goals. And these are quite abstract for engineers, for example. So that's why for this reason, we brought in specialists from multiple fields and we followed the iterative process. And then, this getting back and forth among the different fields, the technical, non-technical people. In the end, we had this opportunity to communicate effectively and then understand the guidance, the limitations of our system. And then this actually lead to a more meaningful study.
Indeed, inclusion, we need to do inclusion at all different levels, including children, but also ensuring the inclusion of different disciplines and understanding of each other's in our own backgrounds and disciplines and so on. So I think that is also something which is probably recognizable also in the other pilots and other of the people listening to today. But maybe moving on and going further from what you did, it would be great if you can tell us a little bit about what have you learned and what can you share if someone else in the audience today would be planning or considering to use the UNICEF guidance on AI for children for their own environment, for their own applications. What kind of, what can you tell them? What suggestions, what lessons can you tell them in order to better improve the way they are considering to use the guidance? Yes, please.
Yeah, I can start.
Sorry, Malin, yeah.
No, there is a lot of lessons learned, and I think it's also related a little bit to what I mentioned with challenges and opportunities, with how important it is to really create this vision of what to create and what to achieve and involve all people, cross-functional. Ethics and legal and children's rights need to get in earlier and from the start of a project or a work of securing the rights for the child. And if you do this, and if you work with this AI policy for children, it's a fantastic tool to actually bring everyone together to really look at what to achieve in a holistic perspective. And when you find solutions with this holistic perspective and bringing in the child from the start, you also get very competitive products and services that is actually that prevent the unethical solutions.
So bringing them whole in and bringing them early.
Yes, and use the policy for children from the start of the project.
Very, very interesting, very relevant. Judith, you would have something from your side to suggest what others should do, how they can best profit from the guidance?
Yeah. So something, I mean, given our experience, something that has occurred to me is that, I think it would be a real positive if we started to introduce the guidance as a tool that, even young people who are busy sort of like playing and hacking with AI to build products related to children should start to take it into consideration. That we don't have to wait until it's an organization or a nation, before we say, hey, check out this guidance, because going through it, looking at the requirements, I think that there are things that everybody should be thinking about. And given the way that we were able to apply the 3 requirements we focused on, I would say that level of rigor, at least starting to think about it, should be something that we're starting to introduce from as early as possible. So I'd definitely like to see people thinking about bringing it into sort of like into universities for students, that sort of thing, much earlier on.
So AI and children concerns all of us, not only governments and the large corporations, but really ensuring that small companies, SMEs, startups and others really take the guidance into consideration. Thank you. And Randy, you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, I think both of them already articulated very much those points, but I have one additional stuff to include. I think the ability to look through various perspectives is very interesting. It's like in our case, we look at cross-cultural and economic perspectives, among others. And in our study, this proved to be very insightful to the pilot study because children's perception to robots, for example, or to any other technologies are greatly affected by these.
Yeah.
So I think to look at different vantage points is very important.
So looking at different perspectives, different advantage points, and integrate them all together. Yes, thank you. And maybe we still have a little bit of time. Do you have any suggestions to UNICEF? Did you miss something in the guidance? There were some things which you expect they were not there, or things which were extremely complex or extremely difficult to follow. What are your suggestions for UNICEF? Yes, Malin.
No, I can start. And the suggestion is that many people, and very much technical people, they think it's very heavy with guidance and policies. And the experience we had in all 3 projects is that this is actually a great tool and help to actually come quicker to the solution as well as the implementation. So what I think, my suggestion for UNICEF is that these pilot projects have been very, very valuable and very useful. I think both for UNICEF and for the one who have done them. So I think to do this every second year, I think it will be valuable because the emerging technologies go in a very quick pace. So to develop this every second year and review it with real case studies, I think it will be valuable for both UNICEF as well as all use the policy guidance.
So guidance is not a roadblock, but a stepping stone. But we do need to keep adapting it to the speed of the technology. Thank you. Yeah. Very good.
To transform with the technology.
Yes. Thank you. Any others? Did you miss something? We still have a little bit of time before we go to some questions from the audience. Any other suggestions to UNICEF? What to do next? What to improve on the guidance?
I just want to echo what Malin said. I think.
Yeah, go on.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to echo what Malin said. I think more case studies, this feedback I've already given to UNICEF, I think is super valuable. The other that I would say is the guidance. So in its written form, it is fantastic and really easy to use. But I think that if it's also available in different formats, particularly formats that young people will digest more readily, then that would be great. It might be great to have sort of like a quick video, about elements or the different requirements, that sort of thing, just so people with different styles can digest this information a lot quicker.
Thank you. Randy, if you have quick last words before we move to the questions from the audience.
Perhaps like continuous communication and advice and support with UNICEF after this policy guidance, because I think it's not going to end here. I think we have to continue our work and stuff like that. I think that would be nice.
Thank you. So thank you all very much, Judith, Randy, and Malin. It was great to speak with you now. It has been a very short time, but it was very good to hear from you. And now we have some questions from the audience. Rona is coming with some questions.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. It was my pleasure to speak with them and to learn more about the pilots. It's really very good.
What an inspirational panel discussion. And I really love the fact that you mentioned that AI is what we make of it. That's the cue line there.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really nice. We do have a couple of questions from the audience.
That's good. Yes,
if you
please go ahead.
So I guess first one for Virginia to you. So how are the aspects of the UNICEF AI guidelines measured? And to be even more precise, how do we assess that mental health was adequately supported? So how is it measured, and what about the mental health?
Very good question, and it's indeed work continuous, like they say. We do need to continue on that type of work. It is, at the moment, what we have done in terms of measuring the guidance is exactly through the pilots, experiments, checking what works, what doesn't work, what the people in practice, the people in the field take of it. But indeed, the next step would be definitely to look in more detail to all the different requirements and identify how best to measure them. And I think that's work in progress, and mental health and many other aspects are part of this work in progress.
That's excellent.
Yes.
That's excellent. We do have a second question, and that goes to Malin, if we have Malin over there.
Malin is
Lovely.
there, yes.
So our audience enjoyed your use case shared by you, Malin. So thanks for sharing that, and great to see the development and engagement on both municipal and national level as well. So the question to you, Malin, is how do children benefit from using the UNICEF AI guidelines when doing the urban planning? So how do the children benefit from this?
For the social planners, they can see on when it's a very good question, and they are in the middle of the project, but they identify how to plan and support the different areas of the city. So when they are going out and doing interviews with people living in different areas of the city, and then with this data they can much quicker plan what kind of support and planning they need to do in these kind of areas.
Excellent. That's lovely to hear. Keep on doing what you do. It's really great. Maybe a general idea to Virginia or whoever wants to reflect on this. Maybe in the future we'd love to hear a UNICEF study that connects UNICEF business and child rights principles and AI policy guidance. What thoughts that this?
Definitely important, and I don't know, maybe Randy or Judith, who comes more from the business side, do you have any ideas on how business, children and UNICEF can get together to improve on the guidance from a business perspective?
So one thing that I had commented on, and this is, I mean, I'm not big business in any sense of
big or small,
but really coming from the tiny space. Yeah. So just that caveat first. But I did think that it would be really helpful if there were more incentives to support the people who are creating for children, but for them to do it with children. Because I think a lot of times, you know, when you think about products being created, the drive is just to get the products out and all of that. And if we can create more spaces where you can work with children and incentivize working specifically with children, I think that would be a really fantastic thing that UNICEF could be part of enabling.
And I see that Malin, thank you, Judith. I think I fully agree. And I see that Malin also has some comment.
Yeah, I just want to build on Judith, what she said, and that is because I have a long history in corporate, and it is actually, you know, to really involve the children in when you are developing services, products, and talk to them. And we also see this in the public sector in our 3 cases where 2 of them have involved children, and it takes another total different perspective, as well as they add their thinking, because intelligent systems are natural for them, and it's not for us older people.
Yeah.
So I'd say.
Indeed, involving children and ensuring that children are part of the process all the way, I think it's a very important part of how to involve, and indeed creating incentives in which everybody thinks that this is really central to whatever type of development. It's part of the issue, so and it's central to what we are doing, involving children and ensuring children participate at all levels of development. Yeah.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. Good. That's lovely. I still want to thank you, Virginia, and Malin, Judith, and Randy. You were excellent at our panel discussion, and I really want to congratulate the policy guidance. It is really a major milestone in our work. Thank you so much.